Arknights isn't like most gacha games. It's what I like to call good. And a big reason for that is because Arknights doesn't just appeal to a single player archetype. It appeals to many different kinds of players, so I'll play Arknights for different reasons. Now, this video could be a video where I list a bunch of stereotypes of Arknights players, but you can only make the same joke about dick-in-hand degenerates and gacha-addicted soy boys so many times. Instead, in typical Bloop style, we're going to be overthinking a bit and doing some research. This isn't the first time that I've talked about Magic the Gathering on this channel, and it won't be the last. Arknights, as a gacha game, is designed in a very similar way to collectible card games, and this video will dive a bit into that kind of game design philosophy. Magic's head of research and development, Mark Rosewater, has created 3 distinct psychographic profiles to describe the 3 main types of Magic the Gathering players. The creation of these profiles is important to the design of Magic, as it helps the R&D team create cards that appeal towards these specific profiles, and thus appeal towards those players. But what does that have to do with Arknights? Well, these 3 psychographic profiles, to save breath we'll just call them profiles, aren't exclusive to Magic, but rather are a more general outlook as to why certain kinds of players play the games that they love. The 3 profiles Mark Rosewater discusses do possess elements that are exclusive to Magic, so in this video I'm going to be going over my own interpretation of these 3 profile types from the perspective of Arknights. As a side note, these profiles do have different elements to them that fall under a general theme. You don't need to be all of the things within a profile to be that profile. You just need to know if that profile represents a big reason as to why you play the game. And yes, you can be more than one, even all 3 if possible. The first of these 3 is Timmy. Timmy's main drive for playing Arknights is to have as much fun as possible. But, you say, that's literally everyone. Everyone plays Arknights to have fun, and you're correct. But Timmy's motive for play falls into the experience of play itself. The other 2 profiles are more concerned with an end result, while Timmy is more interested in the battle itself. What motivated Timmy is the enjoyment of the fight, excitement, adrenaline, and good-natured fun. Mark Rosewater defines Timmy's main stereotype as the power gamer, a player who enjoys playing big creatures and stopping his opponent out in a magnificent way. Having exciting threats on the board is what excites Timmy the most. This may sound a bit familiar. Loads of operators and Arknights definitely appeal to Timmy. Their kits mainly consist of nothing more than just absurd damage. These high-impact operators make big impressions on the field and can definitely be the main driver for some players' enjoyment of the game. Now, Timmy isn't wholly defined by wielding a beat stick and smacking it against bosses. Timmy is more than just the power gamer. Like I said earlier, Timmy's main motivator is fun, and so Timmy may instead wish to use operators that he just finds fun. Maybe a character that, although isn't amazing or really optimal for a stage, is still interesting and enjoyable to use. Perhaps Timmy just wants to use his favorite character on a stage. What matters the most for Timmy is that the journey of playing Arknights is as fun as possible, rather than focusing on the grind or optimization. Timmy is fine with losing every now and then, as long as Timmy gets to win in a way that he finds fun, he's happy. Next is Johnny, the combo player. To Johnny, Arknights isn't really about winning, optimization, or competition. To Johnny, Arknights is all about creativity and pushing the limits as to what can be done. Johnny enjoys Arknights on a mechanical level. To Johnny, no operator is a bad operator, because to him, every operator is a tool that has a specific use. You just need to find that use first. Figuring out a strategy no one has, or beating a stage in the most unnatural way possible is something that proves to Johnny something important. His squad, his operators, and his playstyle are an extension of himself, and thus his way of playing Arknights is a matter of self-expression. Unique is definitely a good way of describing Johnny. Johnny doesn't care at all about common beliefs or criticisms, using the status quo as mere suggestions. Crushers can definitely be seen as a Johnny archetype, at least until Opianus made them a Timmy archetype. In my Crusher video, I described Quartz as akin to One with Nothing, a card that seems awful at first, but has capabilities when pushed to the extreme. Mark Rosewater, in his article about the 3 profiles, brings up this exact card when discussing Johnny. One with Nothing was a card specifically designed for Johnny, with the hope that only he could figure out a way to really break this card. Operators like Frostleaf, Verdant, Windflit, Spuria, or Quartz are definitely given the One with Nothing treatment by the general community. Considered awful operators that shouldn't ever be used. But to Johnny, that is far from the truth. If anything, it's a challenge. In the words of Mark Rosewater himself, they live to demonstrate that they were the ones to succeed where all the others failed. Spike is the competitive player. He wants nothing more than to prove how good he is at the game and to consistently get better in the process. Operator assessment and optimization is integral to Spike, as the main goal and appeal of Arknights is simply to beat stages, especially the hardest among them. Now, there are 2 different kinds of spikes within Arknights, as the idea of pure optimization exists on 2 different levels, the high meta and the low meta. The high meta Spike cares more about account optimization than gameplay optimization. To them, Arknights is a resource management game, and so investing in the correct operators, upgrading them to their optimal level, and beating tough-as-nails stages with the most powerful operators is the main draw of Arknights to them. The low meta Spike is similar to the high meta Spike in that they care about optimization, grinding, and getting better at the game, but they find more value in testing their skills with weaker operators as opposed to following the high meta. These are usually your niche knights players, as low meta Spike is more concerned with personal progression, while as high meta Spike is more concerned with account progression. Either way, Spike is a player that focuses on analysis, understanding, and optimization. A clear means nothing for a Spike unless that clear was done in a way that pleases these desires. Fun in Arknights comes from a sense of greatness that they are capable of feeling in themselves. They want new operators to push the balanced paradigms of Arknights a bit each time, giving them something more to experiment with and dominate with. The high of victory and success is the main appeal for Spike. Now, keep in mind, all three of these profiles aren't restricted to skill, they are more descriptive of desire. You may be a Johnny who enjoys interesting interactions, but isn't all that amazing, or a Spike who wants to dominate but is still stuck on a Chapter 7 stage. These are not meant to be descriptors of playstyle, but rather of players. What should create and form a player's playstyle shouldn't be a greater sense of correctness, but rather that person's desires for playing Arknights. These psychographic profiles are not playstyles themselves, they are instead what melds the playstyle of a player. Now, there is one more secret profile that I haven't brought up yet, that being Voros. Voros isn't really a psychographic profile for a player though, hence why they don't fall within the main three, because Voros doesn't get their enjoyment from Arknights by playing, but rather from the world. Voros probably couldn't care less about the actual gameplay of Arknights because Voros is more concerned about the story, Terra, and the characters. During the moments where Voros is playing the game, they're probably more concerned with playing with operators that make sense for the context of the stage, or maybe only playing with operators that would normally work together, either a lore accurate clear or just making sure they aren't using an altar alongside the original operator because it just wouldn't make sense. They don't grind operators for stats, they grind it for file entries. No reason to upgrade a module because you get the full story with just level 1. There is probably no more difficult decision for Voros than who can be their assistant for that day. They're not really a player type that Hyperglyph really needs to appeal to, as frankly, just printing an operator that already exists in the story is enough to please Voros. In grand summary, Timmy is your simple, casual Arknights player, driven for fun by any means necessary. Maybe big stats, maybe big moments, maybe just wanting to chillax and throw together a team of their favorite characters. Timmy wants to use whatever he enjoys using the most. One Timmy may love to use penance, while another may wish to use Schwarz. As long as they are enjoying the ride, they're getting what they want out of Arknights. Johnny is the combo player. He doesn't want to win if it means he isn't capable of playing how he wants. Creativity, innovation, and going against the preconceived notions of the game is what drives Johnny. Yeah, Spuria may not be consistent, but what can we do to make her consistent? Yeah, Frostleaf may not be great on this stage, but what about this other one? Johnny sees Arknights as an experiment in a sandbox, and taking that to its fullest is his bread and butter. Spike is the competitive gamer. He wants to win by all means necessary, either through the means of operators like Mjolnir or Chen the Holding Day, or perhaps through a bit of their own skill, abusing operators like Pinecone or Jay to get the same job done. As long as Spike can feel progress either in the game or within themselves, Spike is happy. But what is the point of saying all of this? Well, it's because I feel the nature of your generic gacha game pushes players into the high meta Spike profile whether they like it or not. Your average gacha slop is designed to appeal towards players who thrive on a power fantasy and a more surface-level hedonistic appeal. Often gacha games have no real single-player gameplay elements to them, forcing players to focus entirely on a multiplayer arena mode, and thus narrowing their view entirely through meta. They also tend to focus entirely on surface-level content that creates this waifu-addicted demographic that I'm sure is rampant in these communities. This creates the gacha consumer culture I'm sure some of you are very familiar with. There's many habits and rules gacha game players often carry over between games, and it's often the default playstyle of these communities. Arknights, though, is significantly more focused on single-player content than multiplayer content, meaning an individual's playstyle is capable of flourishing without a strict power creep to metagame to hold them back. But despite this, gacha consumer culture is still rampant within this community, and I don't feel we should be restricted by it. I got a few comments on my Doberman video where people talked about how my discussion of the early game completely shifted their view on progression in Arknights, and I feel this slight alteration in view is beneficial for certain players who just haven't realized it yet. Throughout my brief time in the Arknights community, I've definitely gotten criticism for some of my takes, usually by Spikes who often see their own playstyle as more justified by nature of optimization. This isn't exclusive to Spikes, anyone can be like this. However, this simply isn't the end goal for all players. Although my content is more meant for Johnnies, I'm happy if you aren't a Johnny watching this, my content is for whoever likes it. I don't think that everyone should feel that they should become a Johnny just because I talk about why Quartz is awesome. Some people just don't want to use Quartz because she isn't fun to them. Some don't because they feel there are better options available, and all of that's fine. What should matter isn't some be-all end-all goal that's defined by a single sect of the community. Instead, what should matter is that you find what you love about Arknights and chase that. This video is more to help people realize and understand what kind of player they might be, and perhaps inspire them to realize what they really find fun about Arknights. That will be it for this video. It's nothing too amazing, it's more just me kind of reading this Magic the Gathering article and kind of giving my thoughts about how it can be applied to Arknights. I'm a fan of Magic, so being able to use Magic's deeper design philosophies as methods for analyzing Arknights is just fun. The next video I do will be about why bad operators exist in Arknights, and it mainly follows what our Lord and Savior, Mark Rosewater, said in his own account of why bad cards exist in Magic. If any of these player profiles really spoke to you, let me know in the comments. I honestly would love to hear your feelings in regards to this. I hope you all have a great day, and I love you all. And remember, there are no bad operators, because I'm a Johnny, and of course I would think that.